For those who don't know, there's been over 100,000 veterans deported. And about 80% of these veterans deported are veterans who struggle with PTSD, who have self medicated drugs or alcohol or gotten a DUI, going from a VFW going home because of their PTSD. And being a resident, you break the law, you get deported. So right now, I am trying to advocate for this where it is not an immigration issue, it is a veteran issue.
Have you ever had any supernatural experiences?
Supernatural.
You take that however you feel.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. It's cool. So just jump in it.
Yeah,
Okay,
let's just
cool.
hop in.
So in my beginning walk with the Lord, I've learned to be obedient to Him. The coolest thing that ever happened in the beginning of my walk with God is I was in Terrell, Texas. There was this corner where I used to do extra activities before I found Christ. And years after I found Christ, we opened up a church there. Chris is the one running it now. It's called Straight Out of Darkness. That's the one it says outside of it is actually Serenity Church. And I remember being out there and God saying, "Go pray for that lady," and I'm like, "That's weird. I'm not gonna just go pray for a person I don't know." So I'm driving down the road and God says, "Go back and pray for that lady," and I'm like, "What am I gonna say to this person?" And God says, "Tell her I'm gonna cure her from cancer." And I'm like, "Well, I'm definitely not saying that." So I did go back and say, "Hey, I'm sorry I didn't pray for you, but God wanted me to pray for you." And she started bawling. When she started bawling, she goes, "You don't understand. I just came from the doctor." And before she finished saying doctor, I said, "God said He will take care of your cancer." And she says, "How do you know? I haven't told anybody."
Ooh.
And that to me was one of those things that I learned to be obedient.
Mm.
So we want to talk about obedience. Here you go. Oh, dear Lord. You guys wanted to be a little bit live, so I'm going to say this. So when people say I've prayed in, my wife's watching, she's probably going to laugh right now. One of the most awkward places you've ever prayed. Anybody got one? Like awkward scenario, scene, anything?
Doesn't come to mind quickly, but
All right.
My prayer room's my bathroom right now. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty awkward enough for me. So.
Well, a couple years ago, me and my wife decided to stop having children. We're like, okay, we're done with the children we got. My wife decided it's time for you to get a vasectomy. So you guys want to break the ice? We'll break the ice with this one.
yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we go. I'm there. The nurse walks in, and in my mind, I'm saying, nope. Nope. And my wife's like, "What's wrong?" I said, "God is telling me to say something right now." And I refuse. So right before the doctor walks in the middle of prepping me for my surgery, I told the lady, I said, "Sorry, but God wants me to say that He wants me to pray for your daughter." And in that moment, the lady starts crying, just uncontrollably crying. And she says, "Yes, yes, yes, please pray for me." So I'm laying down and she grabs my wife's hand. I'm in the middle. They grab my hand. I'm laying down. The doctor walks in and he goes, "This is a first." So I prayed for the lady and I was like, "Can you please cover me up while we do this prayer?" And she was, "Yeah," but I always like to throw that in because I think that's the most obedient time I ever prayed when God said, "Pray now." And I'm like, I don't
It's slightly
know.
awkward.
It's very awkward.
Yeah.
That's a good time to pray, though, when you're fixing to have to go
Yeah.
through a procedure like that.
So, do you know any of the outcomes of those prayers?
No, not really. We've God puts a lot of people in our path. And I believe that we are meant. Some of us are meant to water the seed. Some of us are meant to plant the seed. Some of us are meant to just work the ground and not even get the opportunity to plant the seed or even water the seed. And I strongly believe that if we stay obedient to what our purpose is, somebody else would come and harvest the fruit.
Yeah.
This is what I tell people. If people always ask me, "What kind of Christian do you want to be remembered by?" Or "What kind of things do you want to be remembered by?" And I always say, we all know who Billy Graham is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the
My
name?
dad got saved at a Billy Graham conference.
See?
So
Do you know the name of the man who led Billy Graham to the Lord?
I should, but I don't.
That's who I want to be. I don't care for my name. I want men to be that God sends to us to go big in the gospel it's okay to be the guy that nobody knows.
Mhm.
The guy that planted the seed,
guy in
made
the
the Billy
background,
Graham.
Yeah, that's everybody wants to
The
be Billy
world is
Graham,
built by those people.
and that's it. Send me, Lord, whoever you want to send me. Let's build them up and go. Actually, one of the gentlemen watching right now, his name is Chris Martin. He was the first person I ever discipled, first person I ever baptized. The man is a pastor for the Assemblies of God now. He's an evangelist.
Mhm.
Great. Just it's so amazing to be able to be part of somebody's life
Yeah.
like that.
So how did you become a Christian?
By choice. I always tell everybody I was Catholic by tradition, Christian by choice.
Mm.
I'm glad you asked that question. That's one of my awesome parts of my testimony. My wife has always been Christian. I was Catholic. I was actually very devoted to the Santa Muerte. You know, the Santa Muertes, the Holy Dead.
Yeah.
It's the
Okay.
Green Reaper, but in
Mhm.
the Catholic Church, they hold him as a saint. So that was who I was devoted to. I was living a life that was not worthy of God. And my wife was going to Christian church, and she would always invite me. And I'm like, man, I ain't going to your church. I ain't going to your church. So I was a tree shade mechanic, and I'm working on my car, and underneath the car one day, and the jack falls, and it pins me to the car. It doesn't crush me; it pins me. And
Mm.
when it pins me, my laptop changes over to Spanish Christian music. And I'm listening to this song, and I'm just bawling my eyes out, saying, what's up with this song? Why is this song, saying everything that I'm going through?" So my wife gets home, and I tell her this happened. She goes, "You want to go to church with me?" So I said, "Sure, let's go to church." And we were going to go to a quinceañera. So it was Saturday. We went to a quinceañera, a Christian quinceañera. And this pastor walks up to me and goes, "Julito." You know this part? Julito. And that's what you call a little boy. My name's Julio. So in that lifestyle, I was like, "Who does this dude think he is? Why is he calling me Julito?" So he goes, "Hey, I'm glad you're here. I got a gift for you." And I'm like, "Sure, whatever." He gives me this little card, and on the card there's a bird in the middle of the ocean on a rock. And he says, "You want to know what that means?" And I said, "Sure. Come Sunday to church, and I'll let you know." So he left me like I was angry, like this guy playing games with me. So I went home and I started doing some extra curricular activities. Got home with a couple of friends and said, "Hey, we're gonna figure out what this means because this pastor's not gonna be smarter than me." So I didn't go to church that next Sunday because I wanted to know the answer. It took me a whole week. When I went back, I didn't have the answer, but I walked in and he goes, "Julito," across the church, it made me angry again. And because I'm not no little kid, I'm a grown man. Why are you calling me that? So when he finally walks up to me, he goes, "Do you know the answer?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Do you want to know the answer?" And I'm looking at this guy like he's playing games with me. So yeah, tell me the answer. He says, "Look at the picture." So I'm looking at the picture, and remember the picture is a seagull on a rock in the middle of the ocean and the water rising up. He says, "It doesn't matter if the ocean rises up against you. As long as God is your foundation, you shall not fear anything." And it blew my mind.
Mm.
It blew my mind. Coming from Iraq, being in war, my mind was just something totally messed up. But it made perfect sense at the same time that it made no sense. How can I put my trust in somebody and fix everything when I don't even know what this somebody is? So that's why I started going to church. That day he read a scripture that completely changed my life. He read Isaiah 6:8. Then I heard the voice of the Father say, "Who shall I send as my messenger?" And I replied, "Here I am, send me." I was sitting in the back of the church, and when that scripture came on, I felt like every single person in that church disappeared. And I was there, and there was this big empty space, and God is saying, "Who will go for me?" And nobody would raise their hand. And I felt like I was like, "I'll go."
Mm.
So I went and I got that thing tattooed on me that night. And for the next 15 years, I struggled with substance abuse. For those who know what a two percenter is, I'm a two percenter. And every time I would be out of my mind on my addiction, I would always do this. I would always rub my arm.
Mm.
And people were like, "Man, that's your tick, huh? Every time you're messed up, you do that." Nobody knew that I tattooed Isaiah 6:8, and I would always say, "One day, God, I'll be that man that you called me to be.
Mm.
One day, I'll be that man that you called me to be." And if you look at it, it's pretty much worn off because I used to always just sit there and like, one day. And I'm grateful that God has spared my life to be able to become that man now.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So where'd you go from there?
From there, my wife ran away from me.
Okay.
She says she was going bald. She says my addictions and the way I was made her flee from California, and she came to Texas.
Mm.
And for oh, cool, I know where we're going now. Thank you, Lord. The church that I was going to, I go one Sunday because my son's mom said, if you want to see your son, you can't come bother me. You can see your son at church. So I said, okay. I walk into church and I'm sitting at church and I'm looking around, waiting. They never came in. I walk up to the pastor and I say, hey, the pastor interrupted me. He was like, are you okay? I said, yes. He goes, even though your son's no longer here? And I said, excuse me. I got so angry at God because I remember being in that church and telling God, if you protect my son, if you guide my son, if you do everything for my son that I can't do for him, I will serve you. And all of a sudden, I didn't see my son for a whole year. My wife she wasn't my wife at the time. She got my son and took off. For a whole year, I didn't know where he was at, didn't know where she moved. I would get a private ID call every day, and it would be my son. It would be my son calling me saying, Daddy, I miss you. I'm going to cry. Daddy, I miss you. Daddy, I want to see you. And at those times, God was sending Christian people I had a mechanic shop. He was sending Christian people to my shop. And I was very good at what I did at that time. And when somebody would say, God bless you, I would be like, man, shut up with your God. I don't want to know nothing about your God. I didn't care if they were Mormon, if they were Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't care who they were. If you looked like you had something to do with God, you were getting a rock thrown at you or you were getting the water hose.
Mm.
I remember about 6 months into this, I have a dream, and God has talked to me a lot in my life. And in the dream, God says, why are you angry at me? And I told him, I said, I told you I would serve you. I told you I would, tell people about you if you would only protect my son from evil, from harm. And God said, I kept my side of the deal. You are that evil. You are those things that you wanted me to protect. And it blew my mind.
That's a pretty profound thought.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
and I became homeless because I left everything I did and I went into the streets and I became homeless because, like you said, it's very profound. It blew my mind that the reason I didn't have the one thing I wanted the most of ever in my life.
Because your prayers were answered.
Yeah. And because I was the thing that was preventing it from being there.
Mm.
So I always tell when I talk to people and they're like, man, you don't understand. My baby mama don't let me see my kid. Well, it's probably for their protection.
Yeah.
We don't want to hear it in that time. So from there, I spent about 6 months homeless in Bakersfield, California on Union Street. And being on that street, I got jumped a lot. Some of the best people I've ever met, and anybody watching has ever struggled with any addiction, the best people I ever met in my life were not from church. They were homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this couple. That they used to push their shopping cart down. Union Street is nothing but prostitutes and drug fiends. 1 hour motels, and that's where I lived at. And I never understood why the lady would pick up cans all day and save the money. But the hotel room was so small that they would let me sleep at the end of the bed. And every time they went to the restroom, they stepped over me. But every night I knew that I had a place to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was the most amazing friendships I had because I had nothing to offer. Today, you may have something to offer someone, an ear to listen, $1, this and that, and you got a lot of friends. But I remember that the friends that I had when I was homeless, I had nothing. I was a broken, confused, homeless veteran. And these people would always feed me every day. The coolest thing was on Thanksgiving, they would collect all their can money. And on Thanksgiving, this lady would cook the biggest Thanksgiving meal. And I'll never forget, for the homeless. It was out from a little opening cans and cooking the cans and one at a time, putting it in these big trays to go outside and cook. To me, that was amazing. That was one of the coolest, saddest experiences I've had because anybody watching or anybody going to be watching, it's great that our churches go out there and, feed the homeless, once a week or once a month. Great that the churches feed the homeless on Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I remember standing in line on Christmas and Thanksgiving and yelling at the Christians going, hey, I'm also going to eat tomorrow. You going to be here tomorrow? And I used to be like, is this just for you to make you feel good? sometimes we do things in our walk to make ourselves feel good, not necessarily
For
because
sure.
we have
For
a
sure.
heart for it. And I'm not knocking it, but that's what I'm saying. When we find our passion, it becomes a daily passion for the Lord, not a check mark.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's unfortunately, it's a lot of these homeless people eat very well 2 days out of the year.
Mm.
And it becomes tradition. It becomes tradition in our families and our churches to go and feed the homeless, to give us a good pat in the back. And what about the rest of the year?
Mm.
Do you think the homeless don't eat?
I mean, they got to eat.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. So coming from that lifestyle, the things that I do today are because I remember those things.
Mm. So having been on both sides, like, what do you think the solution is?
Very simple: compassion. What I mean is, especially for us Christians, it says, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday at the men's home, one of my leaders, and he said, well, I'm very upfront with people. I'm going to correct them because this is what the gospel says. And that's true. But sometimes we want to quote Jesus' words to the Pharisees, how Jesus spoke to the Pharisees, but we're quoting those words to the sheep, to the flock. You
Mm.
can't quote the scripture that Jesus meant to correct the Pharisees, because that's the way he spoke to the Pharisees was different than the way he spoke to the people coming to search for him. So a lot of times Christians want to throw scripture to people like, oh man, they're just living in sin. We got to correct them. No, no, no. That scripture that you just corrected them with was something that was told to a Pharisee. Was, like I say, a leader can always correct the leader the way they correct each other. You cannot correct your 6-year-old son the way you're correcting your 18-year-old son.
Yeah.
So that
Higher standards.
I think that's a lot of where our churches are messing up right now, where we're like trying to call out these people because we want to be truth tellers, but we lack compassion.
Mm.
When we are doing the things for God and we're not doing the compassion, he says that he saw the great multitude and he had what? Compassion. That's the thing from our churches. A lot of our churches lack compassion. We have great stadiums, great sounds, great everything, but where's the compassion?
Yeah. So how did you two guys meet?
I'll let you say that one, Kenny.
Well, part of my testimony, that one of the first churches I started going to was over there at Covenant Church in Rusk, and that's where I met Julio at, and he took me under his wing and started doing outreaches with him, going out with him. He really inspired me, seeing that you could actually go out and try to help people. I think one of the first places we went was Tyler under the bridge, and then went to Rolling Oaks, back where he's from.
Mm.
And
Rolling Oaks.
yeah, that's
What goes on in Rolling Oaks?
Rolling Oaks is we did a small documentary about 7 years ago. It's called Third World America, because again,
definitely that.
our churches always want to go send money to India, to Africa, to these third worlds,
Yeah.
not understanding that we have third world Americas here. So this community of anybody watching probably from Rolling Oaks, it's a great community. In the 50s, it was one of the richest lakeside communities in Quinlan. It's infested with drugs now.
Mm.
And people live in small little things, people live in what they can live. And they live there because they're broken. And people don't want to go there. People will rather go several miles to avoid that one community to make sure that they don't. I mean, Kenneth saw that. It's a broken community.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
Mm.
But that's where the church needs to be.
Mm. What broke it?
Drugs?
But I mean, the drugs come
The
from
drugs,
somewhere.
I believe, from the devil. And I'll explain why I said the devil. Because majority of the people in drug addiction on the streets, homelessness, they don't have jobs.
Mm.
So how do you get the drugs in? That's the question everybody says. The devil. What I mean by that, whenever you are walking with God and you are 100% with God, the devil can't touch you. He knows that you're no longer, he can't use you. He can't use your talk, your attitude for him. So when you're trying to walk towards God and you're broken, the devil will bring anything and everything free for you. Man, I got to quit drinking. Hey, man, you want to come over? Man, I got some beers, man, on me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
And man, I'm tired of doing this dope. hey man, come on over, man. I got some new stuff you got to try.
Yeah, it's all free. You
It's
know
all
what I mean?
free. So when
Yeah.
people say, where do homeless people get it? The devil.
Yeah.
The devil will give you everything you want to prevent you from getting everything you need.
Mm.
And the only thing you need is God, but he will give you what you want. He will give you your desires to keep destroying you.
Yep. Still kill and destroy.
Yeah. So how do you get
Man.
God in there to displace that then?
With compassion. Back to it. You get people
So
who
what does that look like in practice?
No, what it
Ah.
looks like, I'm gonna tell you. So the first time I went out there, so Julio performs different than a lot of people I see, and he's a major encouragement. But like he rolls through there, and you've seen his truck out there. It's got the
Mhm.
scripture all over it, and he's going through there. Well, Rolling Oaks, the roads ain't, they're not very well, and some of them have actually like dug pits so people can't get through there. They made
for the cops won't come get
they
them.
make traps and they set up
You
broke
got
down
some moats
cars and
some
yeah, it's like some Mad Max time stuff out there. Like, but he just rolls through there and they know who he is. They see him when he's coming and he's hollering, hey, he's hollering out at them and they come out, hey, meet me at the gates at this time, and he's already got this church coming in with this and this church coming in with this and he's done brought this here and man, it's amazing.
You probably don't go in there without a level of protection or like a
He really does it with
escort.
protection of God.
Say escort.
Yeah, I had to have him. I know that because
So you're gonna see me smile when I talk about people from Rolling Oaks because the first time I ever was in Rolling Oaks, it was there for the wrong reasons. And the person I needed a ride, and I said, "Hey man, can you pick me up? I'm in Rolling Oaks." And it's actually Rolling Oaks, Wills Point, Rolling Oaks. Yeah. So the first time I was there people are like, "Man, get out of there! What are you doing there?"
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go to the news, there's a bunch of news stuff about there, and people look at these people as bad people. No, they're not bad. They have been forgotten.
Mm.
They have. If it wasn't, we'll get a little bit more into my testimony in a little bit. But if it wasn't for people who are watching, and Kenneth know, if it wasn't for people like Papa Hugh is an amazing person that taught me people are more important than projects. Yes, I can go work this day and go make X amount of money, or I can go ahead and spend my money and go feed these X amount of people and give them hope. All people need is hope. And this is what I mean. It's like you have, thank you, Lord. This is the way the Lord described it to me. You have two balloons and you're pumping both of them. You're pumping one with negativity and you're pumping one with hope. It's so much easier to pump the negativity. It's just so much easier because hope takes effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hope takes time, money, all right, to go do something for somebody who is not going to get baptized, who is not going to be able to walk up and go, "Hey, Pastor, it's because Michael went and ministered to me that I'm here at church and paying the tithes." Hope, compassion is seeing somebody on the street. And when people go, I told Kenneth the first time he went with me to go feed the homeless, I said, don't expect to save nobody today.
Mm-hmm.
That's what do you mean? I said, we're not here to save people. We're here to meet their needs. So many people want to go and go, "Hey, I'm going to go feed the homeless. Hey, say this prayer with me."
Yeah.
And then you walk away, you're like, "Oh my God, I led 10 people to the Lord today." Man, they've said that prayer twice a day for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not
they
what
know the word better than you. A lot of them.
So what's the purpose of homeless ministry? Is meeting the needs of the person that needs it that day. And I told Kenneth this. I said, homeless ministry, the only reward you get from homeless ministry is your obedience.
Mm.
That's it. Lord, you told me to go feed our fed.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Don't expect anything else but your obedience. That is your reward. It's Saturday. It's your day off. You can be at home, but you choose to go and sacrifice
Mm-hmm.
to get no reward back. Not to get another number on the baptism list, not to get another prayer that accepted the Lord. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That is how we change these things, where people start seeing that people care, and then they start hungering for that care.
Oh, and I mean, biblically, like we were always told to take care of the poor. Like the Mosaic law there's laws for gleaning, for like you leave the corners of your field, so there's food for the poor, and then a portion of the priest's job, the 10% tithe that went to the priest, was to take care of the poor and needy. Like the poor will always be with you. So it's the church's job, it's the religious structure's job to take care of them. And I do think we're farming a lot off to the government, which has caused more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's caused the church to abdicate a lot of their responsibility.
I think I'm going to say this with so much. Please understand how I'm going to say this. There's more dope dealers taking care of people than there's churches taking care of people.
I can believe that.
What I mean by that is you have people who are struggling in their drug addictions, going to this person who provides their drug addiction, saying, hey, man, I don't have money for this. And the guy giving them the drugs, but it's going, hey, man, go buy your kids some food. Why? Because that person is so broken that he can't see his kids, that he knows exactly what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And says, hey, I know you're an addict, but I also know that you need this. So the people have been able to feel more comfortable with their bartenders, drug dealers, doctors, psychiatrists
Mm-hmm.
that prescribe something to numb it, because the church has not done that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying all the churches. I know, God knows I have an amazing church that we do everything, but we can't be the only ones doing it. The churches don't meet the needs of the people. Because the people don't meet the needs of the church.
What are the needs of the church?
That's what the churches think. Well, they don't pay their 10%. I can't give them what they need if they're not paying. What they don't have to pay.
Yeah, they don't give up their time.
Yeah.
Or their time.
So they don't have 10%.
Exactly. But, that's what I'm saying. But that's how the people feel. They're like, I can't go to that church if I can't pay my tithes. It's like I have to belong in this country club in order to get the benefits of the country club. So when Kenneth was talking about, we had churches there. We have East Orthodox Church. I've worked with the Baptist Church. When we started doing our ministry in Rolling Oaks, we had 6, 7 churches, different denominations. And I remember one guy saying, hey, man, how'd you manage this? I said, because we don't talk no theological stuff here. We're going to help. And if you want to take Joey to your church, cool. You spend the time in Joey and take him with you. I'll introduce you to all these people who need Christ. Now you take your time and take them to your church if that's what you want. But no church gets the credit when we're out there doing street ministry. No church needs to get the credit. God gets the credit.
So what's the outcome that you're seeing from those outreaches? I mean, I know we said like the goal is to meet the daily needs.
The outcome is a good outcome. I'm going to mention Papa Hugh, Mr. Hugh Chappell. This is a gentleman that when I was homeless here in Texas, I was walking the streets and he goes, hey, man, are you hungry? Remember, I come from California. So the white community and the brown community don't really, it's a little bit different over there. So I said, man, what's this white boy talking to me? Talking to me, he wants to help me. Man, I don't do those things. I don't know what you want from me. I don't do that. He goes, you hungry? I said, yeah, sure, I'm hungry. He went and bought me a pizza. That was it. A week later, he sees me walking down the street again. And he goes, hey, you hungry? I'm like, yeah, this guy fed me. Yeah. So I asked him, I said, why are you helping me? He said, God has a purpose for you. He just told me I need to help you in your purpose. That was so strange to me. This dude don't know me. What God is he talking about? Because this doesn't happen. So I started working with this gentleman, and I've seen the gospel preached. I've seen the gospel sang. I've seen the gospel in movies. I never saw the gospel in a man. Does that make sense? I never saw a man live what the gospel says to live. I've seen the gospel preached. I've seen it sang, and I've seen it in movies. Those feel-good movies that you start tearing up and like, man, that was a good movie. But it was a movie.
Yeah, just acting, huh?
Yeah, just good actors. This man, Hugh Chappell, amazing man of God, took me in when I had nothing. And I would always ask him, why would you help this brown kid? Grown man, but why would you help me? He says, God has a purpose. And that's what we need. We need people like you, like me, like Papa Hugh, to look at a total stranger and goes, hey, what can I do for you? Because God has a purpose in your life. And I had burned every single bridge, coming back from Iraq, struggling with PTSD. My family didn't want to, even till today, my family does not know the man that I am today because they have not taken the time to meet the new Julio, but they remember the old Julio. So what will change it is people like Papa Hugh. There's so many people who know Mr. Hugh, Papa Hugh, and their lives have been transformed because of I call it the ripple effect of this man.
Hmm.
So that's what it takes to change people.
Yeah. So you mentioned your testimony several times. You want to get into that, or have we covered it?
Yeah,
or-
no. So there's something, there's a part of my testimony that when people say, what changed your life? So that church, remember when God told me that it was it was my fault that my son was gone.
Hmm.
I've been the prodigal son many times, if that makes any sense. I've come back home and I've forgotten how horrible I had it in the streets that I chose to, hey, Dad,
Go back.
let me go back. I don't know about y'all, but at the men's home, we have a picture of the prodigal son in the middle of the pigsty and just crying. And when I look at that, people are like, oh man, that's sad. And I look at that picture and I want people to imagine that. Just imagine that in your mind, the prodigal son crying in the middle, surrounded by pigs. And when I see that picture, people are like, yeah, that's how it must feel. I said, no, I know exactly what that looks like. What I mean by that is, I can't believe I'm back here again.
Hmm.
You know, there's a surprised look in your face where you're like, I can't believe I ended up here. But I think there's a worse feeling in your life where you're like, I'm back again. It took me so much. So being in Terrell, Texas, that's where my life changed completely to become the man that I am today. I had a daughter who I abandoned. It's taken a lot of years for me to be able to say I abandoned my daughters, 3 of them. And one of them still doesn't want nothing to do with me. But my youngest one that I abandoned, she would always call me and go, Dad, you're the best dad in the world. Man, I ain't talked to you in 6 years. What are you talking about? And she would always tell me, Dad, you're the best dad in the world. And I remember coming, the memories that I have is coming back from Iraq and being in my dress blues and picking up my daughter at school and my daughter grabbing, sorry about the crying, grabbing daddy's hand, all proud of me and going, this is my daddy. This is my daddy, picking up my daughters from one school, going to the other school, and just having my 3 daughters be proud of that man. That lasted very little in my walk and, as a man, because I struggle with severe PTSD. So when I came to Texas, I had already experienced the relationship with God in that church in Bakersfield. So I had told my daughters, when you come to God for a brief moment, you want the world to know. So I told my daughters about Jesus, and then I abandoned them. Years passed, and my daughter calls me and tells me I was the best father in the world. And she goes, aren't you a Christian, Dad? I said, I am. I wasn't living like one. But I guess that when you walk into a church, you are. Because I say that because there's so many people right now watching or going to be watching that I'm a Christian. Why? Because you got baptized when you were 5 years old. So I told my daughter, yeah, I'm a Christian. And she says, can you talk to me about salvation? And I said, sure. So I said, I'll call you right back. I went on Prophet Google. You go to Google and I asked Google, what is salvation? Google told me. I called my daughter back and said, oh, baby, salvation is this. So she goes, Dad, is it okay if I call you every day and we talk a little bit about Jesus? I said, yeah, baby. So every day she would call me. And I remember the first Sunday morning came around and I said, I'm going to go to church. And people were like, what? I was a different person in the community that I lived in. I did some different things that I'm not proud of doing. I was known for that. That kind of people don't go to church. So I went and I bought me a tie. I bought me, something nice to go to church. And I remember walking out the house and people in that house laughing at me because that kind of person don't go to church. I remember walking into church and people looking at me at church like, you don't belong in church. We know who you are. So there's the biggest battle of when someone wants to do good that lives in a dark place. I live that battle where I'm like, I want to be different. But the people that I'm living with don't accept the new me. And the people that I want to be with don't accept the old me. I'm rejected from both sides. Because of how many times have you heard somebody get drunk and start talking about the gospel and everybody tells them, hey man, shut up. You can't talk about Jesus while you're drunk. Why not? Why not? And people are like, well, that's disrespect. No, it's not. I learned in my walk that in those darkest moments of my walk, the spirit that was living in me wanted to come out. I tell people this, you may own a flashlight, Only a fool turns it on in the daytime. You turn it on at night.
Mm.
So in those moments of darkness is where I wanted the spirit out. I wanted to talk about Jesus because I was in this dark hole. So I go to this church and I wrote down a couple things about what the pastor said. Went home and told my daughter, "Hey, baby, did you also know that the gospel means this, this?" So for about 6 months, every day, me and my daughter would talk about Jesus. I would start listening to podcasts, Christian music, going on Wednesday nights, changing, not for me, but for my daughter. My daughter calls me one day and she goes, "Dad, I got baptized and it's all because of you."
Mm.
For the first time ever, those words of "you're the best father in the world" meant something. So the next night I take off. My daughter had medical problems. So the next night I take off and I fall into my dark addiction. And my daughter's calling me and I'm not answering. My daughter's calling me and I'm not answering. I get a phone call the next day from my ex-wife saying my daughter died that night.
Mm.
So I go to my phone, and on my phone, I remember going to my phone, and the last message my daughter sent me was, "Why aren't you ever around when I need you, Dad?" So I can tell you I hit rock bottom for the first time in my life. But God is the rock. For the first time in my life, I didn't desire God. I needed God. There's so many people who desire a better life. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better me. For the first time in life, I needed to be a better me. And I remember in my mind saying, "God, I'm sorry, but I'm not angry at you." The reason that's important, me saying I'm not angry at you, God, is when I was in Iraq, my best friend died in my arms. I was angry at God. I'm an only child. This was like a brother to me. On Mother's Day, 21 years ago, a drunk driver killed my mom. I was angry at God. 4 years later, they decapitate my father. I was angry at God. So all these people that meant so much to me have been taken, and I always blame God. But because of the last 6 months that I was going to church, I was listening to the pastor and learning who God is, that He has full control even when we don't make no sense to us. All that. I remember hitting my knees that day and saying, "I'm not angry at you, God. I do not know why you've done this, but I'm not angry." And I know that there's at that moment something broken changes in me. Something broken changed me. I went to California. We buried my daughter. And when I came back, I became the bum. I was a person who was very respected in the town I lived in for the things that I would do. I became that bum that I always said I would never be like that guy. Knocking at doors, asking people, "Man, can I come in and take a shower? Man, can I use the restroom?" I became that guy sitting outside the gas station that, you avoid. You avoid making eye contact. That was me. And I remember sitting at the gas station for many days, even months, not mad at God, but just not wanting to talk to Him. The way I describe it to people is when you're mad at your spouse, but you don't want to confront your spouse, you're like, "I'm just going to avoid you." That was me. I love you, God, and I know you're God, but I just don't want to talk to you right now. And I remember one day I was thirsty and I asked the guy at the gas station, I said, "Sir, can I get $1 for water?" I don't even know if it was $1 water, but he looked at me and he looked at me with such disgust. And I wanted to yell at that person, like, "You don't know me. You don't know where I've been. You don't know what's happened to me." My wife always says that, being in Iraq, having my best friend die, going to war, struggling with PTSD, being homeless, being jumped, having my mother die, having my father killed, my daughter die, all these things. She goes, "How are you even alive?" So at that moment, when that person looked at me and I saw the judgment in their eyes, I was so angry. And I didn't lash out at the person. I yelled at God. I said, "God, I know you're real." And I said the words that changed my life forever. I said, "I give you permission to do with me what you want because I'm tired." And I think those are the magic words, not because they're magic, but those are the words that God wants to hear. "Lord, I'm tired. I can't do this no more. I've done it all on my own." And I remember walking. And something in me told me walk. And I started walking and I found this book. I should have bought the book. found a book, and I said, "Oh, you got jokes, God, because who finds a Bible in the middle of the highway, on the side of the road, of the sideway?" So I said, "You got jokes, God. If this is real, then show me that you put this for me." So I opened up the book. You know how a lot of us read the Bible. God speak to me, and you open it up.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. A lot of us, that's how we started reading the gospel. So it says something, I'll never forget it. It said, "How do you expect a child to believe in his heavenly father when this earthly father's never there?" That was a sucker punch to my stomach. So I said, "Okay, God, if it's really you, then speak to me now." And I opened up the page, and it says, "The devil only has to destroy the man, and then the family falls." And I said, "No, God, if you really left this for me, prove it to me." So when I said prove it to me, I wish I would have brought it. The title of the book is called Resolution for Men. And at the bottom of that black leather book, it says Julio O. Torres. My name was stamped on that book.
Hmm.
Did God do it? Yeah, who else would have done it? And I remember that's what changed my life. After that, I became the man that I am today, where I said, "God, I know you're real," because nobody else could have done that for me. So that's where we're at today, where I'm walking as the man that I told God, if you change my life, I will be that person that I needed this whole time.
Hmm.
You know, the person who needed, you burned every bridge with your family. Cool. Here comes Julio. I'll introduce you to God. It's okay that they don't trust you no more, but we'll take this on.
How long ago was that?
Over 11 years. And it's good because they say only 10 out of 20 men after 10 years, 2 will remain in the gospel. And I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. That's
Your
a
odds
good
are
thing.
getting
I'm
better.
like, yes, my odds are getting better.
And he's busy in ministry in every angle. I've never seen somebody so involved. But I mean, the prodigal homes, it's now on his property now. And he's got people living there that he's taking care of. He's after church on Sunday. His wife cooks big meals. Everybody comes over and eat. Community, the prison ministry and the baptisms at the sheriff's. Your pastor at the sheriff at Cherokee County Sheriff.
Chaplain.
So yeah, chaplain.
How'd you get into that?
I told God that I would go back where I needed people. I needed people there to care. And I mean, that is exactly if you want to, like, why do you do these things you do? Is I'm also on the board of the food bank in my community. I've been on but like, why would you want to get on the board of the food bank? So when I got interviewed for, there we go. When I got interviewed for,
That's it.
to be on the board of the Good Samaritan Food Bank in Rusk, the first question they asked me, and I knew I blew their minds when they said this, like, "Why do you want to be on the board of the food bank?" I said, "I've been hungry before." You know, when you've been hungry,
Yeah.
you know the importance of going. My family, out of our pocket, we spent a lot of money to go pick up food that is given to us to go ahead and give it to somebody else. People are like, "Why would you drive 4 hours away to go pick up bread?" You're not doing it. I know what it means to be hungry and somebody bring you something. So, yeah. That was the prodigal's home. That was a couple of our guys over there.
And then, so what do you guys do there? Is it?
So we are a sober living home. We started as a faith-based rehab. Can't do a rehab. I'm going to just be 100% sincere with you guys. I can't get you out of your addiction if you're not ready to get out of your addiction. What we turned the prodigal's home into, and that's the name of it, the prodigal. The part that I love about the scripture is, and he came to his senses. That's where we were at.
And that's like I was saying earlier. That's something Julio always says is he doesn't really want to mess with anybody until they're at that point where they say, "I'm tired." When he hears those words, then he's ready to move in because he knows that's where he was. You know, that's
the key thing.
He's preached it to me many a times. You know, you can go help these people and you can go put all your energy in them, but you're really not going to be able to make a difference until they're tired. And that's where I was when I had my breaking point and found Christ. And you know, his story is exactly the same. You know, we have to be all the way broken down and wore out and ready, good soil, I guess, at that point. You know, it's broken soil.
A lot of manure makes good soil.
Yeah, it does.
So what we are, we're a faith-based sober living home. We're not like the Oxford house. My guys have a little bit more liberty because, like I tell them, I only babysit my 6-year-old.
Mm.
That's where I babysit. That's where I said, no, did you brush your teeth? No, you're eating too much candy. These are grown men.
Mm-hmm.
You want to walk a good life, then you're welcome to live in our home. You're not ready for it, then go find a new home. I'm not going to babysit grown men. I'm going to help lead men. So one of the biggest things that I tell my guys is we follow Jesus. So no man follows me. Not a single person in that man's home follows me. We follow Jesus, but we learn to lead men to Jesus.
Mm.
Because that's something that a lot of people say, follow me the way I follow Jesus. I know Paul said that, and that makes sense. But I'll lead. That means me walk first. You can come behind me if you want, but I'm leading me in a certain way because I'm only following Jesus. I don't need no man to follow Julio. I don't need no man because Julio will fail you. Julio fails himself a lot. So that's what we are. We are a program. We are not for profit. All the money that we get at the program, it's I'll say it. It's $400 a month. That includes all bills, your rides to work because you are encouraged to find work. There's some gentlemen in our program who have disabilities, who can't work, but they get a disability check. Great. It's covered. They can live there. And let's see what else. We help them get their IDs, their driver's license. One of the guys, I don't know if he's in that picture. Yeah, he's at the bottom. The baldy at the bottom. He has spent 27 years in prison.
Wow.
This is the first time that he's ever been out of prison for a year. All right. This young man was so broken that he would do things on purpose for me to kick him out. And he would be like, kick me out. And I would laugh at him and say, nope, go to bed. He goes, just kick me out. No, go to bed. I would have to physically grab him and lay him, go to sleep, we'll talk tomorrow. And he would always tell me, why do you do this? And I told him, because I'm not giving up on you. I refuse to give up on you. And it doesn't make sense to people. If I've given up on me, why won't you give up on me? Because that's what you want. And gentleman just got married a couple months ago, has a great job, has a family. You know, that's why we do it. People like that. People, he says, if it wasn't for this program, not for Julio, if it wasn't for this program, I would have been in prison.
So what's the structure of your program?
The rules, I'll tell you the rules of the program. Read Proverbs. That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
There's a lot in there.
There's
a lot of rules in there.
There is. But what I mean by read Proverbs is, you don't tell on somebody they shouldn't be told on. You don't take other things, read Proverbs. This is the reason why I tell the men, read Proverbs, and I don't have a list of rules. We are working with men who have broken their rules their whole life. They're going to see a rule that says, do not drive the car with half a tank. All right? They're going to find a way to...
Watch me.
With that, and they're going to find a way to twist it in a way that, well, I technically didn't. So I've learned that every time we made a rule list, they wouldn't break them. They were just so good at stretching them and bending them.
But you said you tried
this right there.
Yeah.
You said you tried starting it as rehab.
Yes.
What was the outcome there, and why did you shift away?
Because a rehab is someone. 99% of the times that someone was sent to our rehab, hey, my son really needs you. My dad really would like
someone else.
And I'm not talking to them. They're not the people calling me. Or man, my court, this, So this is a place. One of the things, I don't know if it drives the guys crazy, but I think it's hilarious. When they fight me, in the sense of I'll run and I say, give me a second. And I'll run to the door and I'll open the door and I'll be like, wait, maybe they're at the back door. And they're like, oh my God, they roll their eyes because the ones that have been there a while know what I'm about to say. And the new guys are like, what's going on? I'll go to the back door and say, no, maybe they're in the kitchen. I run the kitchen. They're like, what are you doing? I'm looking for that line of people willing to help you. I don't see them here. I see me here. I'm the one here struggling with you guys. So why are you fighting? So rehab is, I'm trying to lift you up, encourage you. I'm ready for those who have gone to rehab, who have struggled and say, hey, I'm done. That's where we're at. When you are done with trying it, cool. When, I'll say it this way, when the liquor don't taste the same no more, come on. When the dope ain't good no more, come on. We are ready for those who says, I am done. And those are the ones that I want to invest. I tell my guys 3 things. I will invest my time, spend my time, but I refuse to waste my time. I will invest my time. That means I will give time to a person and know that I'm going to get something in return from him, a leader, a restoration of his relationship with his kids. I will even spend my time when I see potential in somebody where I'm going to pour into this person, buy him a book, buy him a faith-based, a Christian fatherly book, or a brand new pair of boots because he's promised me he's going to go get a job. I don't mind spending time where I know that it's going to cost me and I may not see something out of it. But when I see someone that you're not trying, I tell them I can't waste my time. When you get to a level where you're ready for me to invest or spend, we're ready.
How many guys do you have?
We have 13 guys right now.
How many do you have room for?
We can house 17, but 13 is good.
13's a
Buffetic, huh?
So do you find people moving people out of the program?
Yeah, we have had a lot of success. I think our success rate is higher than other programs because we don't BS with. So this is the thing. Let's say you get in trouble in another program that I need you to read James 1 and write a report on it.
Here's your homework.
Dude, you're being an idiot right now. What? You're being an idiot. Why would you do that? Well, I said, don't want to hear about it. And they sit there and they're like, am I punished? Do you feel like you need to be punished? No, okay, you're not. So what I've done is I've taken away the I have to learn to I want to learn. Like why are you not gonna punish me? I mean, do you feel what should be your punishment? Well, I guess I shouldn't be allowed to use the phone. Cool, then fine. That's what you chose. You chose it. Because if I punish you, if I make you go dig a hole, all it is rebellion. It's me putting my authority over you, which I really don't have authority over them. It's God's authority over them. I try to teach them that it's not like you're backstabbing me, you're backstabbing God. This program that we have, the prodigal's home, belongs to God. When people say, what do you do? I say, I'm the director of a program. It's God's program. I just run it for him. He owns it. It is 100%. It is his, not mine.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, you know why I say it's his? I tell him, Lord, if you find a better replacement, replace me. Because it's not a job that people always go, do you love doing that? No. And the guys watching, the people going to watch later, don't understand this. If you do ministry because it makes you feel good, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Because you will wake up a day where it doesn't feel good no more. And what are you going to do? Quit on people?
Yeah.
I do it because it's a commandment and I'm called to do it. And that is what I have to do for the Lord. Because I will do it when I don't feel like doing it. I will do it when yesterday was a bad day. I went home and I said, turn off my phone and said, I'm not talking to them. But then I got up this morning, I went and did it again. But you had a question for me.
You guys do Bible studies and stuff?
Yes, Proverbs every morning.
Every morning.
Every morning. And then we go to church on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Sundays.
Okay. Is that mandatory?
Mandatory.
Mandatory.
We are a faith-based program.
So there are a few rules like that. Like you got to do, yeah.
Yeah, you can't drink. There's curfew. You can't vape in my program. And I say that in my program on that
Thank
part
God,
because
I hate vaping.
Well, this is the reason why I say vaping. I don't care if you smoke a cigarette. The cigarette ain't going to send you to hell. If a cigarette's going to send you to hell, so is that Dr. Pepper. You don't quit drinking.
But vaping might send you to hell.
Well, no. The vaping is this. The vaping is this. I don't know what you're vaping. I don't know. I don't know if it's CBD.
And you can't tell from the smell.
I can't tell. And it's just, no. If I can't tell, then no. So, yeah, they have to go. And on their days off, we volunteer at the food bank. And the reason we volunteer at the food bank, that's where we get our food. So we don't struggle with food. We have been very blessed with our community. They provide for us. Our name in our community is very at a good standard. So.
Do you think what you're doing is you can grow it or scale it into other communities?
We are changing it right now. So we are at this big old metal warehouse and all the men are comfortable there. I don't feel like they should be comfortable there because people in the world live in homes, not in a metal warehouse. So within the next 60 days, we're transitioning from this giant warehouse, this 100 square feet warehouse, to a house in town where they can walk to work, where they can stop driving my cars like they're race cars.
Yeah.
So I want them to be able to walk to the store, this and that. We're in the middle of nowhere in a warehouse and all they get to do is see each other. I want them to live a normal life. Like Go do your laundry at the laundromat.
Yeah.
Go walk to Whataburger.
Got to be out in the world.
Go meet new people. Go have a friendship with somebody else that's not in the program. Oh, they get drug tested at least twice a week. Random drug tests. And the random part is you do a mouth swab today. Urine test today. Oh, by the way, you do both today. Because, sometimes you just got to be a little bit different with them.
Do you think your military experience helps you to
Yes.
corral this group of guys?
Yeah, definitely. Because we adapt and overcome. Every morning, I don't know what's going to happen. It's a different battle. It's always a battle. But we see the battle as what it is. We got to fight it. Somebody has to fight it. So those are some pictures. Sometimes when our community really likes us, they'll send me a text message and say, "Hey, where can I send you some money for you to take the guys to lunch?" So that right there is a special day. Somebody donated some money and we went to the Chinese food.
Nice. Very cool. Let's talk about your shirt. Talk about what's going on there.
Well, we're in a shirt that says "Stop the Deportation of Veterans." A lot of people don't realize that not just citizens can be in the military, but also veterans. Also residents. So I came to this country legally. For those out there who are going to question that, I came to this country legally when I was 5 years old. That's when I told you that I started seeing the Rambo movies, and I desired to be somebody like that. I wanted to join the military to always have a home. Because growing up, what I didn't mention back then, growing up is we're this, this ain't your country. Go back to your country. I love this country. I wanted this country to be my country. So I said, what is the best way to do that? Fight for this country. So I went and I when I joined the Marine Corps, I wanted to earn my place in this country. I went and I went to Iraq, struggled with a lot when I came back from Iraq, divorce, lost a friend in Iraq. War is war. What I mean by that, the smells that you will see, smells that you will smell, the things you will see stay with you. I have severe PTSD. I was diagnosed with 70% PTSD as soon as I came back home. Nightmares. And that's what led a lot to my being homelessness. When I came back, I struggled with some substance abuse and I got in trouble with the law. When I got in trouble with the law, I spent several years homeless. When I got sober, as my testimony says, I started getting all my documentation back. The government gave me all my things back because I was always a permanent resident. When I came back from Mexico last summer, first time I ever went to Mexico since my childhood, and I get detained at the airport. And they saying, "Hey, by the way, yes, you are legal, but over a decade ago, you broke this law. And you are no longer allowed to come back in this country." It was devastating. I'm sitting there at Immigration Detention Center at the airport. And anybody who wants to go look at the full story is if you go to East Texas Pasture. Yeah, East Texas. There you go. So I wanna talk about God in the situation, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, of course. You know the name of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I wanna glorify God in this. I know we're talking about my shirt, but for those who don't know, there's been over 100,000 veterans deported, and about 80% of these veterans deported are veterans who struggle with PTSD, who have self-medicated drugs or alcohol, or gotten a DUI. Going from a VFW going home because of their PTSD, and being a resident, you break the law, you get deported. So right now I am trying to advocate for this where it is not an immigration issue. It is a veteran issue. Yes, there's certain laws. In 1996, the law Bill Clinton passed is called the Immigrant Responsibility Act. It says it's your responsibility to be good in this country or else you'll be kicked out. 100% I approve of that. But our veterans were broken by this country. I'm not saying they deserve a better chance. What they deserve is their case to be not looked at as a general case. You know what I'm saying? Why did you do this? Is this a first time offense? Are you, women, children? Then that's different. Are you hurting people? Or is this something that you're self medicating yourself? You are punishing yourself. I was sitting down yesterday and watching a movie, one of my favorite movies. The last year has been so hard on me. My PTSD has been going crazy for several reasons. Just in December, we went and we celebrated, we put wreaths on the tombstones of our fallen, military members. And this is where people don't understand. I try to be this strong person walking with God and helping everybody else, but I go home and I fall apart. And this is why I fall apart. That day that we went and it was called Reefs Across America for our veterans. You know how many people showed up to do that? 3 or 4. Where's the rest of our nation doing this? So I'm standing there holding wreaths and we are doing the national anthem. And I'm there, love the national anthem. And I'm crying, not because of this, not because we're fixing to put wreaths on our fallen soldiers, but because I'm going, this is my anthem. I'm fixing to get kicked out of this country. This is the flag that I chose to fight for. This is the flag that I said I will serve. And I'm listening to the national anthem and just in my mind it's going, this is the last time I'll ever be able to stand and salute this flag? Because do I salute the American flag when I get deported? I mean, what do I do? Is it even my flag anymore? The crazy thing is all these veterans, there's Purple Heart veterans that have been deported and are no longer allowed to come back into this country because they broke the morale laws of this country. Really? There's moral laws in this country? And I say that because...
Meanwhile, a lot of other things you can do.
Yeah. So, but for a majority of these people who get deported, they don't get to come back. But there's one hope for every single person who gets deported. When you die abroad, the United States will allow you to come back in a box and be buried in a military,
memorial service.
Yeah. Why when they die?
Yeah.
So I struggle with that where we're fighting to stop our veteran suicide rate. Do you know the high percentage of veterans who get deported commit suicide? Because their families are left here and they don't want to. This is the thing where people, my wife and my kids, they tell me, Daddy, we will go wherever you want. And I'm going to be transparent. I break down and I cry with my family. And my wife's like, why are you crying? We're supporting you. And I tell my wife, I'm the man in this family. It is my job to sacrifice for my family. It is not my family's job to sacrifice for me. I've sacrificed for this nation. I have sacrificed for homeless people. I have sacrificed for so many people. It is not okay for my family to sacrifice for me. So we see that, and I think it's just so unfair that a lot of these, there are veterans who have been caught trafficking, tons of drugs, that's different.
Yeah, it's circumstantial.
But they're not viewing veterans like that. They're viewing veterans as a piece of paper, black and white law. You broke this law, you're out.
And you got a man like him that's getting caught in that's changing the community, literally changing the community where he's at.
Positive that you're
fought
doing
for this country.
Yeah.
Beautiful family. Just, I don't know. It's
a live stream.
All right, cool. Oh yeah. So one of the things that I want is, and I'm not mad at no politicians because I still honor this nation. I'm not blue or red. I will reserve my opinions on that. There's something that I do want to touch on. These protesters right now protesting for this illegal alien thing, they have the right to protest, but I am against one thing these people did. And I would 100% apologize to every single American out there. They have no right to burn the American flag. These protesters are protesting for their parents because they want their parents to stay in this nation. But they're burning the flag that the nation that we want to stay in.
Yeah, it doesn't send the right message.
It doesn't, and it makes me so angry because people are gonna laugh, and I mean this with total respect to the white man. I'll never be white enough because I'm a Mexican. To the Mexican in Mexico, I'm never gonna be Mexican because I was raised in America. So I tell everybody I'm gonna write a book called The Man with No Nation, because to the American-born person, I am not American. To the person who is in Mexico and knows that I was raised in America, I am not a Mexican.
Mm.
They will not accept me as a Mexican, and the United States will not accept me as an American. So there are so many people like me who are willing to fight for this nation who lose. We lose from being there, from being here. We have zero nation.
Mm.
We are called traitors. We are called, there's, you don't know how many times I've talked to politicians about this scenario, and you know what they tell me? Governor Ted Cruz. I talked to him. That sucks, son.
Mm.
I know. I know it sucks. And it's like, well, thank you for the picture. Move on. Excuse me. As soon as I say I'm being deported, instead of I'm a veteran, when I'm a veteran, oh, let me listen to what our veteran has to say. Oh, wait, you're not a citizen? I can't earn your vote?
Mm.
Mr. Jake Alsey, another representative from here in our area. Every single representative, and I don't mind if you share it with every representative in our area, I have reached out to their office. Every single representative, and this is what they tell me. It is a trigger. We don't want to put the word veteran and deportation together. And I say, exactly, it should be a trigger. It shouldn't be in the same sentence.
Yeah, I think most Americans, like if they were aware, which Americans tend to be very unaware, they would be like, yeah, they would not be for it. It would be a trigger. It would be a problem.
Mm-hmm. And it needs to be out there. It is scary. It is scary and this is the scary reasons. When a person like me, if we get deported, you know who loves to hire people like me? To get deported?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what happens when you refuse to work for them? So thank God I survived Iraq.
Yeah.
But a moment that this country puts me on another country, on the floor of another country, and me being a Christian man with certain morals that I will not fight or will not do this, I will die in the country that they deported me because I refuse to be against this country. And
Yeah.
it's they don't see that. No, the American don't see that. Mexico don't see that. So we are traitors in both sides. We are stuck in the middle, and this is the crazy part. We are men and women who have no true nation because, oh yeah, you fought for this flag, you deserve to be here, but you messed up, so we don't want you no more.
Hmm.
People don't realize that less than 1% of American-born people serve the nation. 12% of immigrants join the military.
Wow.
Less than 1%, 12%. Okay, I know there's just more. There's just the number.
It's still a pretty extreme ratio.
Yeah, the percentage is the important part, not the number, because obviously there's millions of people compared to the fewer immigrants, but it's the percentage of I will take an oath for this nation. And yes,
I'll fight and die
Yeah.
for this nation.
so when I joined the Marine Corps, I remember joining the Marine Corps and telling the recruiter, put me in the front line. I want to blow some stuff up. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid that my mama told me, she's like, this ain't your nation, son. So yeah, it is. It's where I want to live. It's where I want to, if I have, one of the worst things that people don't realize for veterans like myself, when you have a friend who dies in Iraq and you feel that you should have died there, that's where the PTSD comes from. And you were willing to die. You sometimes wish you would have traded places with that person. And then you get treated like, we don't want you here.
Hmm.
When less than 1% of this nation is willing to fight. So it's a very touchy subject for me because I wish that people can stop this. I mean, if we can stop the deportation of veterans, that's all I'm asking is stop the deportation and look at this at each case, case per case basis. Because out of my hold, I'm 43 years old. 3 years of my life, I was in trouble. I'm not a criminal, a lifetime criminal.
Mm-hmm.
I was a lifetime, probably self-medicating person, but I wasn't a criminal. The VA couldn't help me. I had to find a way to help myself.
And even to add to that, it was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
11 years
Yeah.
ago.
So it's like there's plenty of time to prove that you are a positive good for the community. Not to mention everything else. Like it's pretty obvious that you're a chaplain for the police department.
Yeah, our police department really stood up when I needed them to stand up. They advocated. So let me go back to the day I got arrested. This is gonna be amazing. Uh, and I laugh because I have a great relationship with God, and I love the way God slaps me around sometimes. So I get arrested in Homeland Security, and I'm sitting there, and I'm being very Christian. Other people are getting arrested and cussing everybody out, and they're having to tackle them, and I'm sitting there crying. I tell the guy, I said, "Can I use my phone for one thing?" And he goes, "Yeah." I call my pastors, and when I call my pastors, I said, "Pastors, can you please take care of my wife? Make sure anything she needs." My pastor's like, "What's going on?" I said, "I just been detained, this and that." I said, "Can you guys make sure the men are being taken care of?" I'm not thinking about me, and I'm not trying to pat myself in the back, but there's a reason why I'm saying this. And I give the immigration guy the phone back, and I'm sitting there, and there's another gentleman across the hall crying. And I tell the immigration guy, I say, "Is it okay if I go pray for him?" I said, "I'm a pastor. Can I go pray for him?" And the guy looks at me like, "You want to do what?" I said, "I want to pray for him." So I go and I pray for this person. And I pray for this person. That was an amazing day right there.
Yes, it was.
I pray for, so before that, our church is immediately praying like, "God, we want you to release Julio right now. Release Julio right now." My wife at that moment gets a phone call from me saying, "I've been released." And I'm going to get to that. So I get there and I pray for this person, and the guy looks at me and he says, "I wish I didn't write your paperwork up." He goes, "Because it's on me to release you or no." He says, "But I already submitted the paperwork." And I'm like, "It's okay." Another high ranking officer comes in. He goes, "Man, what can we do?" I'm there for 5 hours where they're trying to figure out what to do with me. And this 5 hours, there's men crying, women crying, and they're like, "Do you want to go pray for them too?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go pray for them." I'm like, I got to do what I got to do because I wanted to do this. I wanted to pray for people because I'm praying for them, but it's keeping me from breaking down. And this whole time, they give me my phone. Nobody else gets to have their phone, and I have my phone. I'm talking to my wife. I'm talking to my kids. I'm calling people, and it's crazy. We get to the immigration detention center in El Dorado or whatever town, and there's a bunch of us going in, and everybody's being rude. I'm the last one to go, and the lady's like, "Do you want to keep your wedding band on?" And I said, "No, ma'am. If everybody else is taking them off, I'll take it off." She goes, "No, sir, you can keep it on." And I'm like, "Thank you, ma'am." And I'm being polite. Everybody else is not being polite. And the lady goes, "It's cold in there. Do you want me?" And she gives me extra shirts, an extra blanket. And everybody's mad. And I'm like, "Dude, don't be mad at me. The lady's the one giving me the stuff." So we're going, and it's like 7 of us, and we're walking, and all 6 of them get put in this tank. And they go, "You come here." And I'm like, "Where am I going?" And I see solitary. I'm like, "Why are you putting me in solitary? I didn't do nothing wrong." I'm freaking out. Like, why solitary? It's a small room, this and that. So I get put in there, and I'm like, "Okay, God, what's going on?" So when I get put in there, I tell the guy, I said, "Man, I'm claustrophobic. There's a little window about that big." And he goes, "I'll open it for you." So instead of being in my bunk, I'm sitting there like this, just like, "God, you got to do something. God, you got to do something." And all of a sudden, about 50 ICE agents rush into solitary confinement.
Oof.
And I'm like, "What is going on?" Well, I didn't know that I was put where all the Chinese people were. And I get to see 50 agents come in and do what they got to do. And I'm freaking out because it's intense what's going on right now. Like, why am I in solitary? So there's an agent standing there, and I don't know if I should say this, but you guys decide how you want to put it. I say, "Hey, ma'am," and the window's open. And she goes, "Yeah, what do you want?" I say, "Hey, I'm a Marine and I'm stuck in here and I shouldn't be here." She goes, "You're a what?" So I'm a Marine. She goes, "Give me your name and your social and all this." So I gave her all the information. And 10 minutes later, they're all gone. The next morning, before I go to sleep, I grab my pillow sheet and I'm putting all the extra stuff that they gave me. And God is funny. God has a good relationship with me. He hits me in the head a lot. Like, remember that 70s show? Red, the way the things he always says to his son, like, "You, yeah," God does that to me a lot. So I'm getting this pillow that they gave me, and on the pillow there's a big I am on the pillow. And I'm like, you got exactly. I'm like, you got jokes. Okay. So the next morning, as soon as I get up, they transfer me over to where everybody's at. And I'm sitting in my bunk. My bunk says top. Nobody likes top bunk. And my ID says top, but for whatever reason, the guy goes, you can stay on the bottom. But my ID says top. I'm like, cool. I'm sitting at the bottom bunk and somebody's running around there going, hey, is there any pastors in here? Any pastors in here? And he comes up to me. I was like, by any chance, are you a pastor? And I said, why? Well, we've been praying to God that God sends in a pastor because we have no one to teach us Bible study. And I remember telling the guy, I said, you could have prayed for anything else, bro. You prayed for me to come in. I said, really? Okay. I said, okay. So I said, yeah. He goes, can you teach us something? You know, because a lot of the people are Catholic and they wanted a pastor. I said, yeah, sure. Did I want to do it? No. The first night of our Bible studies, we had 21 people give their life to the Lord. And every time I'm preaching to them, but I'm having two battles in my head. I'm like, that was good, God, but why am I in here? And everything that I'm preaching to them, because they're in the same circumstance that I'm in. And I'm preaching to them everything that God is telling me. And the next morning, everybody's asleep. It's about 3:00 in the morning, and God wakes me up and he says, serve. I'm not serving in here. I said, you get me out and I'll serve all you want me to do outside, Lord, because I'm angry at him right now. And he says, serve. And I said, no. So I hear him say, serve. And I said, fine, you want me to serve? I'll serve. In front of me are the toilets. So we have 18 toilets. So I said, fine. I get up and I go get the toilet brush. And I'm just going, I'm in my mind and out loud, I'm going, you want me to serve? Is this serving enough for you, Lord? And that brush gets stuck. And when I pull it out, it just pops me right in the mouth. And I'm like, oh, shut up, Lord. Oh, shut up, Lord. I'll serve. The crazy thing is, everybody in there is telling me, like, hey, Pastor, because everybody's like, can you pray for me? Can you do this? And everybody, I take the role of pastoring that 80 men. And the beautiful part is one day we're holding our Bible study, our preaching sessions in this room, the quiet room where you can watch TV loud. Everybody else, you can't. And we can't fit in there no more. So I say, all right, let's go outside. We go outside and we start singing this Spanish song called Mi Fortaleza. Obviously, they're all Hispanic there. And we only know this one chorus and we start singing it. And it's about 60 of us. And we're outside singing this chorus. We did not know that the women's unit was right next door to us. So when we stopped with not Mi Fortaleza, it's Sumérgeme, the song says, I'm like a soldier going through the desert and my armor is already beaten. You know, we're singing this chorus and we're done singing the chorus. And all of a sudden, the moment that we're done, the women start doing the second part to the chorus. And we're like, yeah, It was such an amazing feeling. And everybody's telling me like, hey, Pastor, you're not going to get out of here for 6 months to a year. Nobody sees the judge for 6 months to a year. And on the 7th day, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, pastoring. You know, everybody's being very nice to me. They're like, hey, come, you want some of our soup? You want some snacks? I don't have commissary yet. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And they're like, man, you better come in here. And everybody's treating me amazing. And I'm praying for everybody, giving advice. And I get a phone call. In the cell. They're like, hey, Torres, Pastor, phone call for you. And everybody's like, how the heck you got a phone call in a cell? Not me making a phone call out. I get a phone call in. And there's an ICE agent saying, hey, are you Julio Torres, this and that? I said, yes. He goes, you're a Marine? Yes. Can you prove it to me? He gave me an email and he says, tell your wife to email me your DD-214. So I get it. My wife emails it. I get another phone call and they're like, get off our property immediately. You know, I'm like, what? They're like, get off our property. So that picture right there, that's a funny one because there's a video out there. You see the smile on that man's face?
Mm-hmm.
There's a video out there.
Turn the audio on. Or is this news? I don't know.
That's the news.
Are we gonna get
no, you're not.
Copyright on that?
No. So there's a funny scene where I'm leaving the facility and I have my little red bag and I'm singing, I am free. I am free. You know what I'm saying? Like, hell lost another one. I am free. And all of a sudden, the white van from the ICE facility starts honking at me, like waving me down. And I'm like, no, I'm not going back. So I said, what do you want? They're like, we need your phone number. And I'm like, I'll yell it at you, but stay away from me. So it was just a funny scene because they said, 6 months to a year before I saw the judge. And on the seventh day, God released me from there.
Wow.
The seventh day.
His wife was in church when she received the phone call.
The seventh day. And I know God has a purpose. That's me and my mama. The day I graduated boot camp. I know God has a purpose. And I'm writing a sermon right now because I get to preach every 3 months at our church. And the title that God gave me for the sermon was, Thank You for the Storms. Nobody wants to say that. And I said, no, God, I don't want to. I'm not grateful for the storms. And he said, only in the storms you will see my power. Because I was at the altar the other day, and I'll close with this. If Kenneth wants to say anything else. I was at the altar the other day, and I'm struggling with PTSD. My PTSD has gone through the roof. As a man of God and as a man, I can tell you right now that my mental state is not okay. My heart, my blood pressure, I'm struggling with my walk right now. Not walking with God, but I am like, yes, Lord, I'll take the next step. Yes, Lord. Instead of, yes, Lord, I'll walk. It's like, yes, Lord. So I'm at the altar the other day, and I when I say God talks to me, he does, just like we're talking right now. And Red used to hit, old son on the head. I'm at the altar saying, God, the perfect storm has surrounded me. That's all I said. I said, God, the perfect storm has surrounded me. And God said the most amazing thing to me that I still struggle with saying, yes, God, it's in your hands. It's more like, yes, God, it's in your hands. When I said, God, the perfect storm has surrounded me, he said, there's no such thing as a perfect storm, only a perfect God. And that's great. Those are motivating words from the Lord. And I'm like, but what does that mean? I mean, and that's where I'm at right now, where I thank God for the storms. I've seen God come through in the storms. I saw my faith withhold in the storms. I saw my church step up in the storm. And it, for anybody who listens to this, is learn to praise God in your storm. Because of the storm, Peter walked on water. Because of the storm, Jonah had another opportunity to go do what God called him to do. Because of the storm, the people in the boat got to say, what kind of man is this that even the winds obey him? There is a purpose for the storm. The storm will push out people in your life that need to be pushed out. The storm will bring in things that need to be brought in. So it is hard for me even today to say, thank God for the storms, God. But if the storm is here, it's because God wants it. So,
like you said, you don't need a flashlight unless it's dark.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Kenny?
Man, I really don't have anything, man. I just want to ask anybody watching or will be watching to pray for Julio and his family and this whole cause. It's because of men like him that I'm involved in what I'm involved in and walking like I'm walking. Without him, I probably would have fell a long time ago. He's a modern day Paul in my eyes, so I'd rather have him here. But I know wherever he goes or wherever God leads him, he's going to do his thing. So
yeah,
I'd rather keep him here.
Yeah, I want to stay too.
Well, what can be done to help? Like call to action for people.
I just spread the word. That this is happening to veterans. I mean, if people go on TikTok and all this and look it up, so this is what people are going to say. What I thought that you get your citizenship when you join the military. Yes. I thought the military gives you an opportunity to get it. Yes. But there's certain people who come back from war, like myself, who are not okay. My priority was not getting my papers done. Does that make sense? My priority was going to work for the oil fields, from the oil fields, becoming homeless, all these things. So what should be done is the moment that you join boot camp and you serve, your citizenship should be given. It is promised at that moment, but it is not given. It is like me promising you to give something, then at the end go, yeah, well, I did promise you that, but you didn't do this part. So we have a movement said, honor the promise. There was something promised to us that needs to be honored.
Mm.
That's it. Just pray for our veterans, all our veterans, not just the ones being deported, but our veterans. Right now, our government is doing an oversight on all our veterans' pensions.
Mm.
There's a lot of veterans out there that need these things, but
Oh yeah, like you said, the country broke them.
yep.
So, all right. Well, thank you for sharing. It's been a pretty amazing story, pretty amazing time. So, all right.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
We'll catch you next time. Dude, Julio, that was quite
that was a really powerful message. Just really, really glad he got to come on and share his heart. Kind of wild. He's FaceTiming his crowd while he's
that was cool.
live streaming over
Yeah.
there. Yeah. So if we get any new subscribers from that, you guys come on down, subscribe, but really, really awesome to hear the impact that he's doing in our local area. You don't get to hear
Yeah.
that too often. We need to have more. I think we need to have more people that are making an impact in your local area, right? Maybe write in, start sending in people. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because it's all about active Christianity,
Compassion.
yeah, and compassion. But
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Not just being
Yeah.
dormant.
And given he's been on both sides of so many of these social issues, like he can really speak to
Yeah,
where the core problems are.
yeah. What a story of getting released on the 4th of July. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a great episode. I'm definitely gonna have him back because even after we quit rolling, we definitely hit on some interesting topics that
Yeah, you guys weren't there for that.
yeah, it part 2 is gonna be pretty awesome. More conversational. I think it's probably a good model to bring folks in if we like them, or if we feel like we connect with them
Mm-hmm.
on their second, third, fourth return. We really get deeper, right?
Where are we available?
Yeah. So for all of our podcast listeners, we do have a YouTube channel as well. So
There are cameras in the room. There are
go
cameras.
go check us out. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music podcast. I'm not an Apple person, so I don't know what you Apple people do. But we love you anyway. Yeah, anywhere that you can get a podcast. Definitely want to try and get our social media coming up. We do have Facebook, we do have Twitter, we do have Instagram. So we're going to start seeing a little bit more posting over there. Just trying to get out there and share our content because we do feel like we're doing something meaningful here and that people should know about.
Yep. Stop the deportation of veterans.
See ya.
I'm gonna cut right then.
That's fine.
All right.
Oh, now you're getting cut worthy. But when you put under the gun, you're all like, yeah, just leave it in.
This little bag, I just got released from the ICE detention center. Jesus is the only way, guys. The whole time in there, I was asking God, what do you want me to do? He says, serve. I said, God, it's hard to serve in here. He told me, serve, and I will take care of your needs. Here I go. All I can do is, I am free. I am free. In Jesus' name, I am free. I don't know how far I'm going to walk, but I am not staying here waiting on my family. I am walking as far as I can from this detention center. I love you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.